Hello, beautiful. Get your coffee. It's time for Coffee with Matilda, a journey to self. Today, with Salindran, we're gonna talk about grief. Grief is a natural response to losing someone or something that's important to you. You may feel it a variety of emotions like sadness or loneliness, and you might experience it for a number of different reasons. Maybe a loved one died, a relationship ended, or maybe you lost your dear job, or even different changes, or sometimes like illnesses. Everyone grieves differently, so today we're going to talk about it and we're going to maybe talk about different stages of grief. Salindran?
Yes, thank you, Matilda. And of course, I'm Cylindrin Buller, a podcast at Uplifting Humans, where we honor, empower, educate, and inspire the listener with real stories and expert advice. Yeah, we're going to be discussing grief because during this process that we've just gone through on the world stage, many people have lost or felt the loss of something. And so they could have been a part of someone else's loss. And because of them experiencing it, they in turn have gone through emotions and processes with someone else. Matilda, you're right on when we talk about feeling sadness, loss, or loneliness. Even feeling a feeling of regret is really a part of the grief process. Many of us have probably gone through life where we've turned around and we've probably said to ourselves, or maybe even out loud, I'll never get over this. I will never get over this. Because the pain and the helplessness and the hopelessness that we're feeling, sometimes it's abandonment, and sometimes it's depression, that we're feeling and we're sensing and we're going through is so great that we almost feel that we are not ever going to get over this. And then what happens in the process is that you're reaching out and you're looking outside of yourself to see who can come in to help me, because I don't think I can do this. I do not think I can go another step with this great tragedy or loss. And you're right, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a loss of job. And sometimes, don't forget, it could be something like losing a title. Instead of getting a promotion, you've got a demotion. It's right. It's a subtle thing, So, many people will have had, thoughts of, where have all the years that I've wasted, where have they gone? Because, they could have done something differently.
Yeah.
They could have done something. And it's a real regret. It's a real regret when they're looking back and focusing in on things. But I think where I really think the listener needs to, delve into and look at is, where is this emotional, pain coming from? Where is it coming from? And realistically, Matilda, we've spoken about this at length. It's about attachment. It really is. Grief on any level is that you have attached yourself to something or someone outside of yourself.
But isn't that beautiful in a way? I think
It
we
is
don't
beautiful, but
attach.
it is, except that when you're grieving, you're not thinking about the beauty of what you're losing. You're not thinking of, oh, I could get through this. What you're actually thinking is, I am losing a part of me,
Yeah.
depending on how attached you are. For instance, a little boy loses a puppy. He doesn't know how to handle that. He doesn't know where this puppy is gone. And then you watch this young boy grow up. I mean, don't we kind of go, like, not all of us, but some of us go through a grieving process of, I am never I'm never going to be this age again. There's a grieving
Mm,
process there, because
I think I
as
have that.
right, because you're losing something, and what that loss is a diminishment of who you truly are, that you think you are in this moment, right here, right now. But if you go into the jungle and you look at, the lion who goes and hunts down a zebra, the zebra is going to try to get away, try to get away, try to get away, because it's innately programmed in us to survive. But at some point, what's going to happen is the zebra is going to give in and go with the process of, I will not live forever. Do you understand? This too shall pass. And so the zebra doesn't fight it. The zebra doesn't have an emotional fit and trauma, and it's a cycle. And there's cycles within cycles within cycles. So it really is an understanding of who you are at a deeper level. And as an adult, having just lost my father, I accepted the fact that he was going to cross over. He was turning 91 in another month.
Wow.
It was the acceptance of him crossing over, because we all do. That made it easier. The other thing is that, if someone is grieving, they also have to look at, who is grieving. Is it the child in me that's grieving? Is it the parent in me that's grieving? Is it the adult in me that is grieving, is feeling this pain? Because sometimes it's your traumas from childhood, or the good times you had in your life when you were, when you were going through whatever. All of a sudden, now you look at it, you really have to question. You have to question. And as you question, you'll be able to accept it. How is it that one person can lose a romantic relationship very easily, and another, it's a huge tragedy and loss, and has to bring in 50 different friends to come in and help this devastated individual.
I think these people don't see the reality of life. Losing a loved one
Yeah.
is a very different ball game. I mean, if your loved one is dead, especially, for example, for parents when their children are dying, it's a very different ball game than, I think, losing a romantic relationship. Um, and I found something actually, and it's very interesting. I'm gonna share a book that I think can be very relevant to our conversation later on, and how people can move on from that kind of a grief. But for me, it's fascinating as well. Like, how can a person from a romantic relationship, they get very devastated. Maybe they don't even understand how love works. Maybe they don't even love themselves, I think. Because if you really love yourself, you will realize there are going to be other people that are going to love you anyways. Or even if doesn't nobody loves you, you still love yourself. That's it. All you need is you. And then I'm sure you are an amazing human being. You're a lovable human being. Other people, you will meet other people. And this pain, even, it's beautiful. But I think once you're losing someone that you really love, which I'm very scared of, I'm scared of grief. Isn't that funny? I'm like, last time we talked about fear. I'm afraid of grief because I don't think I had any grief in my life. Okay, my grandparents died, but I feel like that's a normal cycle of life. Um, but I'll be very scared if something happened to my parents. I don't know how I'm gonna handle it.
But
Or
that
when
too, don't you ever think though, Matilda, that too is a part of the cycle of life? I mean, if the grandparents have gone, next in line would be the parents.
yeah,
It
but I
wouldn't,
hope I'm gonna be in my 60s, 70s or something. I don't know. I don't know how the calculation works, but I'm very old.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
or I'm
Well,
afraid of having a child and my child dies. I don't know. I don't even have a child. I'm not even married. See how the how the process works. I'm not even married. I'm worried about, oh, when I get married and I have a child and this child dies, I'll be devastated. So I don't know what it is, but I'm very afraid of like grieving. But I don't know if I ever had any grief in my life. I don't know.
did you ever lose a pet?
No.
Did you ever lose something um, which is really near and dear to you that you felt belonged to you, which almost became an extension of you?
I mean, maybe relationships, yes, but I
Yes.
always had like, okay, I always thought, I mean, I had a beautiful time with this human being, but now it was the time to finish it, to move on, and for my other, I'm getting ready for my next chapter. And actually, when I was moaning about that relationship, there was a beautiful feeling as well. There was a beauty in that pain as well. I felt like I was alive because I love that human being very much. And letting go, it's beautiful. Feeling this um, pain is nice as well. I don't know. I don't, maybe I'm not normal. I don't
No,
know, but
no, it's
maybe
not. It's not about being normal. I think it's more about questioning yourself, really.
yeah.
Why is it that you feel that yet that you feel that you can get through pain and that you enjoy the pain and it's beautiful, and yet you also have this kind of regret and no desire to look forward to your parents passing away, and yet it's a very known fact that come a certain time that parents are going to leave the face of this earth like every other living being on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Why? And so that I think we go back to questioning yourself. What emotional needs are those people or things filling inside of you? What emotional needs are they filling in you? And then
Um,
all of a sudden, once you go into that questioning, then you'll be able to handle it a little bit more and question the answer that comes up, right? And I know that through the grieving process, for any of the listeners out there, I know for myself, when my mother and my father have both crossed over now, we went through a series of steps and stages, and I just want to share that with you. And these are universal. These are things all over the planet. It doesn't really tie into one particular cultural group. And they discovered this back in the 60s, that there's 5 steps that when you're going through grief that you will go through. One is the denial process. You're going to go through the denial and isolation, and it's basically a defense mechanism that basically kind of allows you to handle the shock of the loss. It's really to help you get through the emotions. The second stage that you go through is, of course, anger. And anger is usually, you think it's directed towards the person who's dying and leaving you behind, maybe, and now you're alienated and by yourself. Or it could be towards yourself, because what you're doing is you're rationally, we know that the person is not supposed to be blamed, but emotionally we may resent the person for causing us so much pain because they're leaving us. Like, what are we going to do without them? And so there's a level of anger, and then of course there's a little bit of guilt that comes up with that anger, because why are you even feeling this and going through this process, right? The third step is, of course, you start to bargain. You know, if only you had gone to the doctor, if only you had done things differently, if only you had spent more time, maybe ate better food or whatever it is. And you know, what you're trying to do is, at this point, what you're trying to do is postpone what is actually coming. And you start to, you know, make a deal with the person who's going away, or maybe make a deal with God to see how you can keep them around, or maybe keep yourself around, right? And the fourth step is depression, right? You go through depression because, you know, you're in a state of sadness and regret. And from that, you actually keep spiraling down the vortex into depression. And we worry about, you know, things like costs and burial, and, you know, depending on your cultural belief system, how's everything going to be coordinated? And yet you haven't been able to fully allow for the sadness and all the emotions that are coming up, and you're trying to coordinate all these things that the world has created. These are the normal things you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and so of course, you know, we also have to look at that in our grief. We, you know, how much time did we spend with them? You know, and uh, you know, there's two types of depression. One is, you know, the depression where we turn around and we're worrying about costs and all of that stuff, and it turns into depression. The second thing is it's a little bit more subtle, because you're by yourself and it's very private, and you're preparing to separate and to say goodbye, to do the farewell and the love, and express how much they meant to you, or you meant to them, or whatever. And the very last stage, and they don't come in this order. I want to really emphasize that. They don't come in this order, but you are going to go through all 5 of these stages, and they may be mixed and they may come in a different order, but the very last stage is acceptance. People who are grieving do not really, you know, don't really understand, but at some point, like all emotions, there's a level of acceptance, and we have to move forward. We make peace with it, and we go forward in life. And that is the very, you know, the last step of it, you know. You know, and once you've grieved, you know, you really start to evaluate your life. You know, it's like, you know, you'll never go out with that kind of person again. You'll never put up with that kind of boss again. You know, you'll never, you know, or, you know, for myself, you know, I'm going to consciously live my life more fully and make sure that I take more time out for my loved ones, because at the end of the day, that's all that mattered. That will be the only thing that will matter. You know, I saw it with my mother, I saw it with my father, you know, and it really gave me an opportunity to learn from my parents crossing over. How do I want to live the balance of my life, you know? And so I think it is a beautiful process. It is definitely a beautiful process. And remember, as long as there is life, there is hope.
Yeah.
Right?
But how can you get, for example, right now I mean, very emotional even talking about it. So how can I get ready for this? How can I be ready for this event? Because I don't want to get devastated.
No, you don't. And again, you know, Matilda, for you and for any of the listeners out there, it's really to do some self-digging, some self-discovery about who are you and what's going on inside of you. You know, it's inevitable. You know that. You know at some point you are going to be faced with that.
Yeah.
Now, knowing that, you ask yourself, is it the adult in me or is it the child in me that's going to be grieving? And when you get that answer, you're going to say, what inside of me is going to feel something which I won't be able to handle? And so what happens is that you're going to have that come up. And yeah, they all, you know what? Your loved ones will have a special place in your heart
So,
for
like, how do you
eternity.
handle that? How do you handle, like, your mom passed away? How was it very devastating for you? Were you ready for that procedure? What was that? Like, can
Yes,
I make
yes.
myself ready for this? I don't
Yes,
know.
you can. Yes, you can. Um, because you know that it's the natural cycle of life. Now you have to figure out inside of you, what is it that person, how are they a part of your life, and you feel your life is going to shift and change, and how can you get prepared for that part of your life, you know?
So, shall I get prepared without even the event happening?
Oh, definitely. Emotionally, you should be prepared. Emotionally, because if you're emotionally not prepared, emotionally you're not
Yeah.
prepared, then it's going to be very difficult. It really
Yeah.
is an internal, it's an internal process. It's a very, very internal process. And I can tell you the process, my process, but it's not going to make sense because
Yeah.
you didn't walk in my shoes. You didn't have my relationship, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Now I have to question that because even
Yeah.
thinking about it is scary. Besides that, I feel like anything happens in my life I can handle. Whoever else, relationship, marriage doesn't work, it's okay. But if I lose a child or if I lose my parents, or maybe if I get a disease that I have to be in the bed all my life, that can rest of my life, that can be very devastating. I don't think I can survive from that event. So I don't know. Maybe I will. I don't know. I never happened. I never experienced the strength in me. But right now, if I'm questioning myself, I'll be like, oh my God, I will die before the event happens. No, I
Yeah.
won't die, but I'm sure it's going to be very, very, it will be a very big tragedy for me.
But you know, the
Uh,
source, the true source of your happiness, Matilda, the real source of your happiness is within you.
yeah.
And so you're immune to all the losses in the world when you're full of happiness and love.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
even that grief, then you will learn to love. It's the
Yeah.
beauty of the falling leaves every winter, right? It's the beauty of watching the flowers bloom and then fall. It's the beauty of all of that, that you recognize that your time here is so precious and so valuable, and that you should walk your life knowing that that's how precious it is,
Wow.
right?
Talking about this, Salindra, and remind me a
Yes.
book that was very beautiful for me, and I read it years ago, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
read it again because I think with age you look at different aspects of it when you're
Yes.
reading a book. So it's this book of Viktor Frankl, A
Yes.
Man in a Search for Meaning.
Yes. Yes.
With he's an Austrian doctor, and he studied neurology and psychiatry, and he was in a concentration camp in Nazi time. And he realized how some people survive in a camp and how some people die. In front of his eyes, his brothers, his parents, his wife that was pregnant, they all were killed And it was very interesting. He said, people who have meaning, who you found meaning, even in that devastating situation, they found meaning, they survived. And
Yes.
brought me I mean, recently a dear person to my mom lost her child. And for me, I've been keep thinking how she can continue living, because he was her everything. And this book came my mind that maybe she needs to find another meaning. She needs to find a different way that can bring meaning to her life. Maybe, and in this book, it's interesting how he says how you can have different meanings. Some people, for example, like scientists, they find meaning with dedicating their life to invent something. Some people dedicate their life loving someone or loving something, for example. Or you dedicate your life to be a hero, you know, like I don't know, you do a revolution, you do something good for other people.
That's
And
right. Everybody needs to do something productive, because if you're not doing something productive, then you're becoming like the rose bush during the fall season, right? You're not
yeah,
growing, you're dying. So
and it was interesting that he was saying, like, to not be depressed, because lots of people, when they're grieving, they go through depression, and they go to addiction, anxiety, because they start drinking or they start doing drugs, for example. And how his system is preventing people to become like that, because he's like, you need to find a meaning, otherwise you will go in the wrong direction and you might lose your life. So just
that's right.
for
And again, and it's a beautiful book. I have read it years back, just like you. It is, it really shows you the courage and the power and the
yeah.
strength that lies within a human being. And it is a must read. So I totally agree with Matilda on that one. I think every listener out there should be definitely picking that up. And it's one of the ones that you're going to put in your chest, that you're going to give away before you cross over. Cross over one day. But, on another note, anyone who is going through grief, some of the telltale signs is that you will see that an individual is quieter, that the individual has different facial expressions, and they may look, a little bit older, because what they're doing is they're carrying a huge invisible load on their backs and their shoulders. And what they're doing is that they are not being able to pull themselves up and really look at life as a beautifully orchestrated uh, system, that you're born, you live a full life, and then you get old, and then you cross over and it starts all over again, right? So I think that, and again, also the depression part of it is, they say that depression is a regret of the past. Depression is a regret of the past, whereas anxiety is to do with the future and the unknown of
imagination.
the, right? And so, yeah, depression really is, did you do everything that you truly wanted to, so that you do not go into depression when someone is crossing over? So again, Matilda, really dig deep down emotionally for yourself, because it's inevitable that your parents will cross, just like mine.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the beauty of someone grieving also, and someone crossing over, is that the dignity and the grace that they show, um, you know as they're crossing over, is really their last gift to us, because they kind of slowly stop eating, and then they stop kind of retreat a little bit, and they're more quiet. They don't feel like doing too much. They don't feel like talking too much. And it's such a beautiful, graceful way of going. It's like someone just goes to sleep. And again, and I know that there's a lot of people out there dealing with all sorts of things at this time. Could be a loved one that's going through a treatment of some sort, or maybe they've contracted the COVID bug, and maybe they're checked into, ICU of some sort. Again, it's a process, and it's an emotion that really requires for you to look internally rather than externally, because that's where all the love and the happiness and the processes live, is within you, And so on that note, Matilda, it's, grief for me really puts life into perspective, and how beautiful and how precious it is.
That's a very nice statement you were saying, Celine. Also, before we started talking, you said, some people might grieve for the life that they didn't live.
That's right.
I'm actually scared of that too. I'm scared of to become old and realize that I didn't take the chances that I had that I had the chances. I never lived the life that I always wanted, and then I wouldn't have any other time to relive those again. I think it's important for a younger person to understand that life is very short, that you might, if there are opportunities right now in your life, you have to take it. You have to enjoy it, and you have to live it fully, because time will come that you won't have that opportunities anymore. And living with my grandma, for example, it was nice because I saw that very clearly in front of my eyes, that this woman that really loved to have friends over, had guests over, dinner. At one point, she couldn't cook anymore because she's getting old. And you realize there are things that you feel like you can do it forever as a young person, or you don't even realize there's a time limit to it because you're too young, or you're not realizing it. But maybe by living with an older person, you realize there are limitations. So maybe you should enjoy it now. And
So basically what you're saying is, don't have regrets. Don't have regrets. Have a fully lived life and don't have regrets. And I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. But I have to say, I disagree with one point. And that is, I look forward to every stage and every step of my life, good, bad, indifferent, young, old, because I'm a little bit older than you, I think. And you know what? Every stage and every step is so beautiful, is so beautiful. I used to look at my kids and I'd say, I wish you could just stay here. But guess what? Then the next stage would come and I'd say, this is even better. I wish you could just stay here. And then it would the next and the next and the next. And you know what, Matilda? Life is beautiful. Full stop.
Yeah.
Full stop. Just make sure you don't have regrets and live it fully. Live it fully, because no one's going to live it fully for you.
So how do you think, as someone my age or younger, maybe they're starting their adult life, for example, how do they need to analyze that? I think, in my opinion, is once you realize who you are, self-mastery again, coming back to the first episode we started, then you will really understand what you like, what you don't like in life. And then you will start doing things that you really love. How do you think someone shouldn't have any regrets? What are the steps for a young person?
Well, not having any regrets. I mean, if you're getting to a certain stage in your life and you're looking back and you're saying, gee, I wish I did this. Gee, I wish you did this. Gee, I wish I did this. And it becomes a pattern of, gee, I wish I did do this, but I didn't. Well, then now it's become a pattern. And guess what? You are going to have regrets. Look for the patterns in your life, because if you're not doing something over and over again, then you know what? You're setting yourself up to have a great, big, huge regret. And you're not going to get that time back. And also, your feelings are your key indicators. Always look at how you're feeling. The feelings will give you an indication before you even get to that mind of yours telling you have regrets.
Very true. Also, I wanna see what you feel as well. I have this friend. She's a young woman. She's in her early 20s. I think she's 23.
Yeah.
And she ended up a relationship. She's in a very, very devastating stage in her life, and she thinks her life is ending. And I had a conversation with her. I'm like, oh, I wish I was your age. I don't care about relationship was ending. You have an amazing age. Why are you depressed about this guy? When so many guys will come in your life, you will explore life in a different way. You might travel, move different cities or different countries. You can meet different human beings with different perspective of life. But what is your suggestion to a young adult that they think their breakup, or maybe not getting to the university that they want, or not getting the job that they want, is the end of the world?
Well, you got to remember that the universe is so beautiful and so precise, and the universe gives you what you need, always, always. And so some of the lessons you need are not the lessons you want. Okay.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, yes, you can say the 23-year-old, oh, if I were your age, and oh, there'll be plenty of relationships. But you got to think that at that stage, her life, she's learning something. She's learning how to handle that. And so her lesson is what the universe is teaching her. And out of that will become something so beautiful and so perfect. And she doesn't know. Maybe this person today, right now, with her perspective, um, she may have felt, oh, yeah, this is the end of my life as I know it,
Mm-hmm.
because without this person, I would not be me. You
Yeah.
understand?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really, really interesting, because when someone thinks that they are only complete with someone in their life, that's a concept that some people have to learn still.
Yeah.
Like, I am complete in who I am by myself. In me, I know I am complete. I do not need another to complete me. But as when you're
Mm-hmm.
younger, you think that way, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, it's different levels, and you know, it really is about navigating yourself, and navigating what's coming up in you, and looking at how you're going to question yourself. Ask the right questions and you can get through anything.
So let me ask you something, Salindra.
Mm-hmm.
Since both of your parents, crossed over, how did you deal with that pain? Something that, maybe some people that haven't experienced it can, remind themselves, or maybe they're going through it, they can learn from you.
Okay, so everyone's individual, and I want to first of all put out there that each individual thinks of grief and mourning differently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in with me, even compared to my own siblings, compared to everyone that I know, I handle death very easily.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I handle death very easily is because I have worked tremendously on who I am.
Mm-hmm.
my entire life. And I don't think there's a difference between me in this body and me not being here.
Mm-hmm.
Because the real me is the one that lives forever. My soul. I am my soul. I am not this body. So when someone crosses over, yes, I may feel some form of sadness. However, I know they're not dead, as we say it on earth, because I know that I have the ability to truly put myself in a high state of resonance and connect with that too.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and I know, in every culture, in every community, many people have communicated with their loved ones that have crossed over.
Yeah.
It's not that only that specific special person can. We all can. We all can. So for me, death is very easy to accept, because I don't believe that you ever die. I believe that you are eternal. You are your soul. And so I will meet you again.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
I do.
And have you ever met someone that you feel like it's the soul of someone that you know?
Yes, but we're going to leave that for another day, because there's a lot of people in the audience that probably are like, oh my God, right? But yes, definitely 120%, because your soul is eternal. And in my eyes, the way I accept death is that you have decided to leave this and you're going to come back again. Yeah. But maybe you won't have this. You'll have something else. So, and I'm good with it. I'm good with it. Because
I don't want to change me. I want to come back again, Matilda. I don't want to change somebody else.
Oh, just accept it. Just accept yourself. Yourself is beyond what you see. Yourself is beyond what you see.
Definitely, I'm going to come back as a woman. Definitely.
Okay.
Well, I will make sure my soul listens to this.
Okay, well, on that note, I will say my farewell to the audience. I'm Cylindrin Buller, the host of a podcast called Uplifting Humans, where we honor, empower, educate, and inspire the listener.
And I'm Matilda, Coffee with Matilda, Journey to Self. And today was a little bit of a sad note, but I think it's the reality of life. So we all need to know about it, and we need to be open about it and talk about it, because we sooner or later we're gonna go through it.
That's right.
Till next time. Ciao.